is that when you're taking out retirement money to split and to give to an ex-spouse or soon-to-be ex-spouse, you want to make sure that you have a quadro. Right. And a quadro, for those that have not heard of it before, it's an acronym, QDRO, and it's a Qualified Domestic Relations Order, and those need to be initiated with that fund company to prevent being penalized and taxed on retirement distributions, because the individual that takes the money out could wind up with a tax bill if they don't initiate that quadro. Right,
right. And as you said, the quadros have to be filed with the fund administrator, and a lot of those administrators provide sample quadros, form quadros that they require that you substantially follow. So your attorney needs to be checking with the fund administrator to see whether they have a form that they require.
And would you recommend that they have this in place before the divorce is final, Angelyn?
Well, I think that's sometimes problematic. First of all, if we try the divorce, then there might not be any entitlement to retirement until the divorce is done. And there again, too, I think that even if you don't try the case and you settle it, people don't want to sign on the bottom line of anything until everything is done and taken care of.
Certainly.
So, I think while that's a great idea probably in theory, I don't know that, I've never seen it done in the practical world. I don't know that it would work. But there again, I haven't seen it done, so that's a new one on me. And I think it's a great idea in theory.
Well, certainly. In theory, sometimes we have that, but we reach to try and attain it, but we don't.
Right, absolutely.
Well, number 8 on my list is, and this needs to be stressed, don't let your emotions be your guide in this difficult time. Lean on your team of financial advisors. Most of us understand the team approach through sports and such, and this is no different. This is a difficult time, and rather than make rash judgments or decisions, defer to your attorney, defer to your financial advisors.
Right, yeah, and I think that this is a tough one for a lot of people because, as you said, it's a tough time. Your emotions are basically guiding you through this, and a lot of times it's a lot of anger, which causes one or both parties to do a lot of stuff to the other person that they might not normally do, or they basically they'll either settle for something that they shouldn't settle for, or they refuse something because they're too angry when they perhaps should settle. Emotions just play a huge role in this, and they can hurt you big time. And when you're going through divorce, they can hurt you in a lot of different ways. So, as well as possible, it's good to keep a rash head on your shoulders, and as you said, listen to your. Or excuse me, not rash, but you know what I'm saying. It's good Certainly. To be, to think practically and to listen to those people around you. So
yeah, it's a very stressful time, and those that have not been through it, it's an experience that you don't ever want to replicate.
Absolutely.
Number 9, another item that we need to look at are what are your assets worth. It may pay, in some instances, to obtain a qualified appraiser for your home, business, or other belongings.
That's correct. Especially, I would think, for business, because they're a lot more complicated to value a business than it would be to value some of your other assets.
Yes, and and some of this can, and even outside of a business, one person might say the home is worth this, and the other says no, it's not, and so you get into a heated debate as to what it's really worth. Right. So sometimes you need to bring in some objectivity into this and, get an appraiser, an independent one that you both can agree upon.
Right, yeah, a lot of fights happen over whether the house is worth, X amount versus Y amount, and, people could save themselves money if they could simply agree on an appraiser, and a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of people wind up getting an appraiser, and then there's still this fight going on.
Yeah, that's the theory portion again, I suppose, where we're in a perfect world they agree upon the qualified appraiser, but in the real world, I suppose, as you experience it, they'll each get their own, and then still just to promote their own argument.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can agree upon an appraiser, but a lot of times, unfortunately, they do each get their own and then still argue. So
certainly. Number 10 on my list is to try to structure your payments as alimony instead of child support, if at all possible. And if your ex-spouse is the marrying kind, of course, alimony may very well stop before any of the child support obligation might, and it's tax deductible.
Right. Yeah, that's the alimony or the maintenance obligation. Same thing. Is tax deductible, whereas the child support is not. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you receive just a line item deduction for that. Is that how
right.
It works?
In other words, when we have the issue of alimony, it's tax deductible, meaning that the person giving it gets to write off on their tax return, but on the flip side of that, the individual receiving it has to include it in income.
Okay.
So, but in child support, it doesn't even enter into the tax picture. Now, there might be some instances where it may pay for that individual to receive it as alimony, because it may help them to put money into an IRA account.
Right.
So that's another consideration.
Okay. Now, when you say it may stop by law in Missouri, at least. What we usually call maintenance, which is the new term for alimony, would stop if the other person remarries, and that is by statute unless it is specifically spelled out in your judgment that it will be otherwise. Child support, on the other hand, would go until the child is emancipated, which in Missouri is 18 unless the child's still in school or goes to college. And 21 would be the age at which they're emancipated if they're in college. And, of course, there's all sorts of nuances in that. But
certainly. And in answering and giving my number 10, I'm not an attorney. I'm an enrolled agent. I'm in the tax field. So I use the word may because I wasn't sure how it would work in a broad application. It's my understanding here in Illinois that it's similar to Missouri, in that it stops upon remarriage, and of course child support carries on through the years through school and such.
Absolutely. Okay.
Number 11, have the divorce decree spell out who is to get the dependency deductions. And as an added insurance policy, you might want to go ahead and have the ex-spouse sign the Form 8332, which is the form that gives the dependency exemption to the non-custodial spouse.
Okay.
And this form can be used to sign for future years. In my experience, doing tax returns, usually they either alternate odd years and even years, or if there were an odd number of kids, maybe one of them gets 2 in the odd years and they get 1 in the even years. And I don't know if that's similar to what you encounter in your practice.
Typically, the way we see it done is they will agree to alternate, or if there are 2 kids, they might split the kids. However, with the Form 14 calculation, which is the calculation that we use to calculate the presumed child support amount, the form presumes that the parent, who is the custodial parent, receives the tax deduction. So there are cases in which the custodial parent or the parent receiving child support receives the tax deduction no matter what. But a lot of times, as you said, I would say more times than not, we see the cases where they either split it or they alternate. Okay.
Number 12 on my list is get a life insurance policy on your ex-spouse if children or a business is involved, in the event something happens to them. Because take, for example, you have a couple that has 3 kids, and the ex-wife has the kids, and something happens to her. Well, now the husband or the ex-husband now has the 3 children, but he needs somebody to take care of the kids, maybe while he's working and such. So he needs to help him through this change, and of course maybe put money aside for the kids' college and such.
Right, and if something's happened to that person, then obviously you're not going to be receiving child support, so it all goes on you as far as supporting the kids from that time on.